Okay, let's get started. Again, my name is Zev. I lead our success and solutions practices here at Attio. Today we're going to be talking about how venture capital firms and other investment firms use Attio to manage their business. We'll do a couple of slides and then we'll jump right into the product. I know that's what everybody cares most about. So we'll talk for just a couple of minutes about the types of things and use cases that we see investment firms using Attio to manage. We'll have a quick discussion about the two major ways you may model or set up your pipelines, whether those be fundraising pipelines or investment pipelines inside of Attio, because you have some choices to make. And then we will jump into the product. Thank you everybody for introducing yourself on the chat. So let's just talk a little bit about it at a high level, and we'll see examples of all of these things of how our investment customers are using Attio day to day. First and foremost, they're using Attio to manage the flow of their investments, their deal pipelines, whether that be sourcing initial deals from sources like LinkedIn, we'll talk about today, managing inbound requests and interest from the potential companies they might invest in, obviously managing and tracking and managing their day-to-day pipelines for prioritizing the investments they're considering and making sure they get all of their steps done, whether that be diligence or reviewing deal opportunities. And then the fine-grained management of managing each of those individual steps in the deal flow in one centralized place where you have access to all of the data about your communication and investment history. We have lots of customers not only using Attio to manage their investment pipelines, but also their fundraising pipelines as well, whether those be separate investment and fundraising teams, or if you're a small firm and doing it all in one place. Again, everywhere from sourcing to tracking pipeline to onboarding new investors, getting all the paperwork done. And then there's a wide variety of other tasks across teams and responsibilities that we see our customers and that we recommend our customers use Attio for, whether that's managing events, whether that be facilitating introductions between advisors and your portfolio companies, whether that be doing recruiting for your own internal teams, or managing communication out to your network of your portfolio or other members of your network. There are lots of tools that are available in Attio to manage those processes, do scaled communication, and have one centralized repository of all of the stakeholders that you engage with as a firm. So we'll talk about lots of these today in the live demo, but really wanted to highlight again to encourage you all to keep your horizons broad and in the way around the things you think about using Attio for. So before we jump in, the last topic I'll talk about here is the tools that are available in Attio specifically for managing your pipelines, whether again that be a deal pipeline or investment pipeline or a fundraising pipeline. And fundamentally, you have two tools available to you in Attio to manage any process that you want to track. The first is lists. Lists are a simple and easy tool for tracking relatively low complexity pipelines and processes. They are a really good fit if you are a small fund with relatively low deal volume, relatively few LPs, right? Relatively few investors. And if you care mostly about keeping your CRM as a centralized contact repository, somewhere to store notes as a team, really managing your whole workflow using lists might be a good fit for you. Lists are also a really effective tool, and we'll see a bunch of examples of this today, for managing individual team projects, one-off processes outside of your core investment pipeline as well, regardless of how large of a firm you are. And the second tool that's available that we for managing deal and investment pipelines in Attio, again, these are kind of your other choice, is custom objects. And we're going to talk about this as well. We'll have examples of both using lists and using custom objects. And custom objects are really highly flexible tools for tracking complex relationships across deals, LPs, funds, and any other piece or stakeholder in your business. And they're a really good fit if you using deal or objects rather, are a really good fit for tracking your pipelines if you have high deal volume, a large number of LPs, multiple funds that you're managing, and you're interested in using your CM to keep detailed records of both current and historical deals, investors, right, and all of the components that you run within your, within your firm. So if you're looking for something that is more, I would call high fidelity, certainly may take a little bit more time to set up, but gives you that richer ability to describe relationships between all of the entities within your system. We work with lots of different types of VCs here at Attio. We work with two-person VCs who do three deals a year, and we work with some of the kind of biggest names, in the VC space out there who have, again, larger deal flow, more sophisticated things they're trying to track. And which of these two routes you go down really is dependent on the level of complexity you want to use to manage your CRM. Custom objects are also a really effective platform for building further automation and integration of Attio into the rest of your tech stack, and we'll share some examples of exactly that. So as we jump in to Attio, I want to just lay the kind of foundations for any deployment of Attio that many of you, I'm sure, already know. But the most important thing to know when you're first getting set up with Attio, whether you're setting up Attio for the first time or you're a new employee at a company using Attio, is when you log in, you sync your email inbox to Attio. That email sync will then generate company and people records for anyone you have emailed with, anyone you have met with, and that forms the basis of this really, really rich contact database that is shared across your business so that you never lose context on a founder that you have met with or a company that has pitched to you. And all of this comes out of the box when you first connect your inbox and first connect to Attio. Of course, as many of you know, we also then enrich those company and people records with data about the industry and the size and the location of these businesses. So right out of the box, from a prioritization standpoint, from a further research standpoint, you have access to that data without having to do any additional work. And we'll talk a lot more about all of the communication data that lives within Attio, but at a high level, we provide what we call communication intelligence fields, both on companies and on people, to help you quickly get a sense of when did you first engage with this, again, person or company, when did you most recently engage with them, who at your organization, at your firm, has the closest relationship with them, and how close of a relationship do you have? So when you're thinking about sourcing, when you're thinking about reaching out, all of these tools are available to you to have a quick and easy understanding of your relationship with that organization and that individual. If I open up an individual company, we have access to kind of the whole history of our engagement with that organization. Emails are automatically synced into Attio, and we won't get too in-depth. We don't get too deep with this today, but there is really rich permissioning around for each individual user. What level of access do you want to expose to the rest of your team? So for this email that was synced from Nick's inbox into Attio, I can see there was an email. I can see who was on it. I can't see the subject line. I can't see the body. I, as a user, can choose, though, to share greater access on an individual company level, an individual person level, or with other particular employees that I want to share more data with. But I still know what has happened with this person, whether we met with them 3 weeks ago and I remember it, or whether someone else on the team, maybe that isn't even here anymore, met with them 3 years ago. None of that context and history is lost. I'm just going to switch briefly to another workspace to show one last kind of really important component of our communication intelligence and communication tracking that lives within Attio, and that is our calls feature. So if you don't already know, we have a native call recording tool in Attio that can join your calls, whether you're using Gmail or Outlook or Zoom. Join your calls, record them, store transcripts. we have what we call insight templates. So AI summaries of your call where you can define exactly what outputs you would like to generate from the transcript of those calls. So I can quickly come in and build a prompt for follow-up email that is unique to the particular questions that I want to ask about a call. So we find that customers create these different insight templates for common interactions they have with, again, whether it be investors or potential deals in their pipeline. So they can get the summary that is most relevant for the task that you are performing. And you can define, again, a series of prompts to return the summary in the format that gets you the answers to the questions that you need. I also, of course, on these records can see not only the emails that we've had, but the whole history of meetings, right, that I or anybody else has had with again, an individual or a company. These meetings, and they're tied to the call recordings if you're using Attio's call recorder. And I'll talk more about other ways, in other contexts that comes into the system. But all of this, right, is what comes just out of the box when you basically turn on Attio and connect your email sync, and when you connect your inbox. And this forms, again, the basis of Attio really being, not just a deal management pipeline, but really a contact and relationship database for your whole, for your whole history of engagement with anyone that you work with. So let's now talk about pipelines, right? I've got this underlying database of people inside of Attio, and I now want to start actually running my business on the system. Before I even jump into Attio, right, I want to kind of work a deal from its earliest inception all the way to going through evaluation, going through diligence, and going through closing inside of Attio. And the first place that a deal often starts is in sourcing. Our VC customers are some of the heaviest users of Attio's Chrome extension. So I have this Chrome extension opened up right now on top of LinkedIn. Anytime you are viewing a company page or a person page inside of LinkedIn, this tool also works on top of your email inbox, on top of your meeting tool like Google Meet or Outlook, to display all of the information you have about this company inside of Attio. And if the company doesn't already exist, I don't have this here, you can create records just from the click of a button on top of the inside of our Chrome extension. It will pull the context like the company description, any contact information an individual shares with inside of LinkedIn, and create a record for you right within Attio. In fact, in this case, customer IO, we have a record for them within Attio as well, but Attio has identified that there are updates to the LinkedIn profile of this company that are not updated in Attio and prompt me to change them. So I can go in here and see that our description we have in Attio is not up to date with the most recent description from LinkedIn. I'm not going to change your address because we have their more detailed address here, and update that, and it's now pushed directly into Attio. And if I want to, I can see all of the same context I saw inside of Attio about the company. I can see my email history and how recently we engaged with them. I can see the team members that we've interacted with, and I can click on any of these elements to go back into Attio and get more detail. And I can begin moving this company into one of our pipelines. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to a pipeline that we're storing as a list here for my own individual sourcing and research. I'll put this in the researching stage. And when I add this to my list in Attio, it of course shows up on the page here. But when I go into my sourcing list, and in this case, this is a list that's just private to me that I use to manage my own top of funnel sourcing. In my own personal view of this sourcing list in Attio, where I'm displaying other Attio's out-of-the-box enrichment and contact data. And what I wanted to also show here is the ability to use Attio as a research tool to do deeper AI-based research. So we've built in what we call an AI field using Attio's agent of all of the current investors for this company. And if I want to run this research block on this individual company, I can go in here and now get the list of their current investors to reach out to my network, perhaps to go, do further research to decide whether we want to pursue them further. So this is an example of a personal list I create. The AI is still thinking, but it will return here momentarily with the list of funders. Not going to wait on it for the sake of time, but we'll come back and it'll be there by the time we get back. I have another list to manage our overall deal flow of pipeline that we are actually moving through our more formal company-wide pipeline. Any list or object that you have in Attio can be displayed in the table format that I showed here, or a Kanban view looking at stages. So we have quick access for, let's say, weekly deal pipeline review meetings to see where each individual deal is. I can control what fields show up on each of these cards to get quick access to information that's most relevant to me. And when I dig into any individual company in our deal pipeline list, digging back to the overall company object where I want to dig, show you some of the additional information that we see firms that are using Attio tracking for deals that are in pipeline. So I might be using notes to keep track of individual meetings that we've had from my own personal notes. We also have, in addition to Attio's native call recorder, we have integrations with note taker tools like Granola that will push their notes directly into Attio, so they're available in one place. If we're having an investment committee meeting and I want to just keep track of the votes, I can put that right in a note here as well. And on these companies, a place to store files that we've collected. So if I'm going into an investment committee meeting for this individual potential investment, I can go to one place to see all of the context or all of the information I need to prep for that meeting, review context. We're all sitting and looking at the same data in one place. So we're not filing through emails. We're not trying to figure out which drive folder something lives in. We're not forwarding emails live in a meeting for everybody to get access to decks and all those in one place. And last but not least, as we think about, as we're actually taking action on a deal and making decisions as a team, I can not only review the data in Attio, but then go and take action on it. So if we have decided I want to move this deal into diligence, you can send emails directly from Attio. We have an email template tool where we can store templates for common emails that we send. So we have a template for sending diligence requests. Attio has access to all of our contacts inside of this company. And when I want to move this company to the next stage, I can go in and immediately send the email with all the information we're trying to ask this person to move them on to that next step within our process all in one place. There's just a quick question on, if you have a list like the one we have here, just adding columns. Super easy in any one of these list views to add any of the existing data points or attributes as we call them. So if you have a data element that's in Attio but it's not being displayed, you can add it here. You can also use this interface to create net new attributes for new data that you want to track in your lists or objects. So Nick, I hope that covers your question. So we've covered the contact intelligence on companies and people within Attio. We've covered, the fundamentals of lists and how you store data inside of the system. And again, this setup that I've walked through here is really a common setup for many of our smaller VCs that we're working with. VCs, again, with low deal volume, low numbers of LPs, low complexity, that want to have a single place to keep their pipelines, keep all of their notes, keep all of their communication data. And I'm going to flip next to, what does Attio look like when I want to track in much higher degree of detail all of the interrelated relationships between the people and companies within our systems that forms our business? So we've switched to another Attio workspace here where that has a series of custom objects, and each of these objects represent the different entities, right? And which are people, which are companies, which are potential deals in our system of the way we manage our investor and deal flow pipelines. So in this setup, I've actually created objects for LPs, for our funds, for our investor commitments into those funds. And I'm going to show you how each of these objects actually are related to each other, which gives you the full, complete picture of your current pipeline and investment history. So I have an LP object, right? Some of these LPs might be people. We're lucky enough to have Shaq as one of our LPs. Some of these LPs might be companies. And this is one of the major benefits of using objects instead of using lists, is lists are tied to a specific object type. An LP list would be a list of companies or a list of people, but by creating its own object, I can have some LPs that point to people, some LPs that point to companies, and have much more flexibility to store information against those entities as a unique object in and of themselves. If I can kind of work our way through all of these other objects, if we're a fund that has, or a firm that has multiple funds, I will track each of the funds, our target raise, the amount of capital that has been committed against that fund, the amount of remaining investable capital. These are all fields that we can use Attio workflows to automatically keep up to date as you move deals across your pipelines. And even more detailed objects for the individual LPs' commitments against any one of these funds, which becomes this interconnected, which creates now this interconnected database of all of the relationships between the investors, our deals, and the funds that we raise. If I head back to manage funds here and open up this Green Growth Founders Fund, I can open up this individual record. I have a tab for all of the deals and the stage that those deals are in for this individual fund. I have, again, the summary information about how much we've raised for it and how much we've deployed. I have another tab here for the particular commitments against this fund. And again, this interconnected system makes it very easy for me to navigate between all of these entities. If I want to, I can navigate to the individual LP commitment for Apex on this fund. I can navigate to the LP Apex itself, and I can see all of the investments they're down here. All of the investments that Apex has participated in. So all these elements are interconnected. I can navigate between them, and I never, lose context and never lose any of the data that I need. Now, even as a and then on top of all of this, I would use a deal object to track our actual pipeline, just like I did within a list. And just like I did within a list, you have the ability to create views for individual processes that you're running. So Andrew can come in and see the deals he's working on. Our legal team can come in and see all of the deals filtered for the ones that are in the diligence stage to get their steps and their steps done. We really see views. Again, these views are filtered sets of records with a particular set of objects, a particular set of columns displayed. I think of views as a cockpit for doing a particular task, whether it's waking up in the morning and seeing what emails I need to send, whether it's on a monthly basis prepping for our investor committee meeting, whether it's giving a research team a particular set of deals they need to go look into. By using these filters and displaying the attributes that are relevant to them, you can give them a place to go to do their work. There was a question about permissioning on objects today. Your whole team will have access to all of your different objects, but there is permissioning that exists within lists. So if you do want to create things that are private, lists are a really great place to keep those. So I want to now talk about kind of some more advanced use cases as we wrap up over the next couple of minutes here. The first thing I'll talk about is integrating Attio with other systems. So let's say we have a network of trusted advisors, right? That source deals for us, and we give them a form to fill out, to send a lead, send a form our way. I want to show you how you can create a form in a tool like Typeform, and automatically send that data inside of Attio. So I'm going to fill out this form. This is me recommending that Green Growth Ventures invest in Attio, saying, hey, I met with these guys. I really think you should know about them. The founder that I think you should reach out to is Nicholas at attio.com. I think they'd be a good fit because this person is a 3-time founder. And I'm an advisor. And I think you should reach out, right? Don't need to go through me. They know I'm coming. So reach out. They know I made the intro. If I go back to go back into Attio, we have our object for that record got automatically created within the system through an integration between your form tool, in this case Typeform and Attio, with all of the data that was filled in with that form. I'm going to go ahead and I might again add more AI fields. Once this lead comes in, I want to go decide whether I actually want to follow up with them. Let's go do research on what companies this founder has previously worked at. So again, right, providing this tooling to not be stuck within emails, right? And even as you're collecting information from a broad network of people, getting that into one consolidated environment. And we might build workflows even to move one of these potential objects into your deal flow pipeline. And workflows in Attio are built within our workflow builder tool. If you've ever used something like a Zapier or an N8N, it's a really simple UI-based tool for creating automated processes that you want to live within Attio. So anytime a form is submitted, we built this workflow to create records for the person who submitted the deal, the founder that was submitted, and then create a network lead record with all of the information that came in from that form. And I do that all within this drag and drop interface. This is an example of using a workflow for managing an external integration with Attio. You can also use workflows in Attio for creating internal processes, like adding a deal that moved into diligence into your internal diligence process in a list, like sending an automated Slack message anytime a deal lands on, moves to a new stage that a team internally needs to go research it and do more work on it. A huge amount of flexibility in these workflows. And this, again, is an example of this unlock for building more sophisticated tooling for automating everything that you do inside of your CRM. The last thing I mentioned, we talked about kind of examples of other outside use cases that I just want to highlight. Lists being, again, this really flexible tool for managing a one-off or siloed process, but keeping it all within the context of your CRM, so you never lose that data. So you get pulled out of spreadsheets and you have information about your contact history with any of these people and any work that you're doing. So this is a database of advisors that we work with that we introduce to our portfolio companies. And anytime I open up the person record for any one of these advisors, I can see who we have introduced them to. We haven't introduced this person to anybody. So pulling you out of spreadsheets, it keeps all of the data, the contact data, the relationship to deals, prior engagements that we've had with them in this one centralized place, while still giving the teams working on these tools a complete open canvas to track the data they need for that given individual project. And the same is true for things like managing events. So we're hosting a founders dinner in Mexico City next month, and we're going to use this list for tracking attendance, tracking dietary restrictions, and because we have access to all of our communication intelligence data, when I want to figure out who is the best person at the firm to send this invite, I simply can add this as a field to my table view in Attio to get that information and decide who I want to ask to go send the invite. So thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to this workshop today. I'm going to take a look through some of the questions here and answer them as we go. But this recording will be up in the workshops library in our community shortly. And we really, again, appreciate you all coming. Yeah, so Nick, it sounds like your question about adding fields was answered here, but if you want to add a new AI field, when you create add a new column, if you want to create a new attribute, our AI attributes are just available as one of the types of fields that you create. So the ones that we showed earlier were our research agent fields, where you can provide a specific prompt. So tell me who this company's investors are. You can also access attributes on the records themselves. So if I want to point the prompt at a specific data point, maybe I want to recommend a meal suggestion for someone who has this restriction. You can create these, give it a name. And when I create this, we can calculate them as a one-off or in bulk. I'll just show as an example here running this. You can also automate these so that anytime a new record is created, it's automatically updated, and you do that. You do that with our workflows tool. This person is an omnivore. Glad to hear that AI understands what an omnivore is. Yep, there's some questions about connecting with SDR tools. Giacomo, thanks for the response there. Right, lots of tooling, whether that be via something like Zapier, N8N, to get data right into Attio, and we work with great partners like Giacomo who are in here as well, who can help with that kind of work. So I'm going to take a quick look at any last questions. Yeah, so linking those firms to records, that is something that is possible, would require kind of a more sophisticated workflow, but something I definitely recommend, digging into Attio's workflow tool to do a little bit more, more digging into. And great, so I think I've covered most of the questions here. Thanks again for joining, and everybody take care.